Okay, we received an overwhelming amount of questions from people wanting to know. Should we cut it? Okay, we received an overwhelming amount of questions from people wanting to know, how did your family respond once the book was released?
So I would have to say that initially my family was uber excited for me, as far as like my mom, my dad, my brother, and my sister. They were excited for me. I had a uncle on my dad's side that once the book was released, you could get the book on Amazon, the ebook for $9.99. And I think he got the book, my dad's brother, he got the book and he read it immediately. So maybe 2.3 seconds, he read the book, and then he called my parents and told my parents that the book was a lie, the book was negative, and that my mom was going to be hurt. So before my parents could actually read the book, they were already, it was already in their mouth. They had already had that this is a negative book and she's talking about us. So they received it. Once they read it from a place of what was given to them, what was told to them. And my mom was very hurt. She was very broken. And I never meant to hurt either, my parents, my siblings. It was me sharing my story, and my book was not a lie. A lot of times people, I think it's very disrespectful for one to tell a person that comes out and tell their truths, or to write a book, or to testify, whatever, and to tell somebody's life is a lie when you haven't lived their life. So my mom and my dad and we didn't talk. They didn't really have much to say to me. Of course, they still love me because I'm their daughter, but they didn't have much to say to me for a while. So I kind of felt robbed. Once I released my book, I really didn't get to enjoy it because now I can't talk about it. You know what I'm saying? When I would go on certain platforms, it was hard for me to kind of express because my family was hurting. And doing different shows, I was by myself because there was no support, because everybody's going to lean, they kind of lean to supporting my mom because she was very broken. In the book, I talk about certain things that I went through as a childhood, of course, with inside the home. I talk very briefly of it, but that seemed that was the main subject, was to just talk about that point. And so they wasn't very receptive of the book once it came out. We still to this day don't talk about it. They don't even have a copy of my book in their house. No one came. My family didn't come to my book signing. A lot of my family that was so negative, of course, was from my dad's side. Everybody bought the book over there on that side, but they bought it off of Amazon, of course. No one showed up to the book signing. It was a lot of people kind of function in dysfunction. And long as there was chaos, and long as there was drama, long as there was confusion, long as there was mess, it was easier for them to kind of push it over there to my family. So it didn't go too well on that end.
So what message do you want your readers to get from reading this book?
I mean, you still have to live your truths, whether you walk in with 10,000 people, whether you walk in with one person, you still have to walk in your truth and live your truths. I'm a mom of 7, and I can't allow my pain and my hurt that I went through to continue to lag on to my children. So I had to share my story, and I had to, to be healed, of course, so my children wouldn't have to fight the demons that I wasn't willing to fight. I would have to say, once the book came out, all hell kind of broke loose in my life, as far as just people around me. Baby daddies came after me. I found myself in court, full custody. I lost my house. It was just a lot of things was happening, during the release of the book. It was crazy. I've never pictured life. If I knew this, I might wouldn't have wrote the book. If I really knew that life was going to go the way that it went, I probably would have never wrote the book. Never, ever, and I would never wanted to lose my mom, and me and my dad was actually starting to cultivate a relationship. I never wanted to sabotage that. It was just, would I write it again? Maybe reword it, but it was still truth. But maybe reword it where it wouldn't be so hurtful to other people or to hurt my mom. I wasn't telling her story because I haven't told all. So I wasn't telling her story. I was just telling the part where it affected me and where it affected my life, if that makes sense.
So what's next for Charlotta Denise?
I have another book coming out. Married, Foul, and Single. And that book, of course, to be released about another week and a half. I wanted to let this part out before I released that book. I guess now I have a covering. I have a church family that's actually covering me. I have a pastor. Whenever I released No Makeup, I was basically naked and unashamed. I wasn't under covering, so I was just exposed, and I had to kind of go through this shoe level by myself. So Married, Filing, Single is still it's another knockout punch book, I would say, because I share my life still in that. I talk more about me being married. I talk about both of the failed marriages. So we'll see what's going to happen after that. I'm going to forever and always share my story, even if it's causing me to be by myself or causing me to kind of walk it out by myself. I have to be obedient. I have to do what the Lord's told me to do. I didn't ask for any of it, but I have to walk in the obedience of what God has called me to do. So if that's sharing my story to help another woman, to help someone else, then that's just what I have to do. To save my children's life, then I'm okay with that. I'm okay with losing people that maybe should have never been there anyway, if I lost them that quick. I mean, I had a best friend for over 10 years. Once I released my book, I don't think I've talked to her since. So it's really, it's been very, very difficult. After I still continue to press on, I still continue to promote my book. I was getting ready to snatch all the books off, and I wasn't going to sell anymore because I saw the level of pain that my mom was in, and I would take my mom and our relationship any day over, the book.